Mental Health Week this week. Amazing. My favourite topic, mental health, confidence, self-esteem, all of that. I get to have a conversation with amazing people who know what they're talking about, who've got a point of view, who are going to share with you their wisdom, their experience. They're going to share it all with you. Come with me to the studio. Today I'm going to be speaking with Christel, so make sure you listen out for what her takeaway is.
And first of all, thank you for having me on here. I think this is a really, really great thing you're doing to really get the message of mental health out there. I think it's something we need to speak about much more and get awareness out much more about. So, but anyways, my name is Christel. I am Danish, but also half American, which is where my American accent comes from. I am a business coach. I'm an MBIT trainer. I am an author. I'm a mom of 2 boys with autism. I do loads of different things and love having my sort of fingers in many pies at the same time. So that's a little bit about me.
Absolutely love it, and that's why I needed you on. You said MBIT trainer. What does MBIT mean?
MBIT stands for Multiple Brain Integration Techniques, and it's all based around this book right here called M-Braining. I've worked with coaching for many years, and about 5 years ago, I came across this book, which was a completely new approach to coaching, and it was based in some new discoveries in neuroscience. Some of the technological advances over the last 15-20 years have meant that we've been able to scan the body in lots of new ways and learn much more about how we think, where we think, and really how we function. And so there were 2 guys in Australia who decided to then take those discoveries and work out, well, how can we use that practically in achieving our goals and, you know, leading happier lives. And so I've ended up training in those techniques, and I teach them to other people now as well. So that's what MBIT trainer means. I train other people in these techniques so that they can go out and coach other people in them.
Fantastic. And I remember when I first met you, I remember when we last met, we were going to the National Autistic, some kind of event around autism. Yeah. And you mentioned the book to me, and it blew my mind when you explained to me about we have three brains, the brain, the gut, and our actual brain. No, our heart, our mind, and our gut. Yeah. I was like, wow, that makes sense, because I was talking to you about my son with allergies and how his emotions are around food and everything, and you just blew my mind in understanding that. So can you explain to us, first of all, what mental health means to you?
Yeah, so for me, mental health is my view of mental health has really changed as I learned about these new discoveries, and as I learned about M-Braining. Because I used to think of mental health as something that really resides up here, like above the neck. That it's all about the thoughts we have, it's all about, you know, the thinking, and that everything relating to our mental state happens up here. But what I've really learned over the last 4 or 5 years is that we really are a complex whole. And I mean, we know that about ourselves anyways, but it also applies to the mental side of things. So we don't only do our thinking in our head. Our thinking is really influenced also by what goes on in our body. And there's actually many more signals being sent from our body to our head than the other way around. We used to think that the brain was sort of the computer of our body, and it worked out what we were going to do, and then it just sent out these signals and said, okay, you know, now do this, do that. And if we just had, you know, our head under check, then we would be fine. But what it turns out is that our bodies actually send many more signals. About 80% of the signals that are sent in our body, they come from the body and go up to the head, and only about 20% go from the head out to the body. So to achieve mental health, we really need to look at ourselves as a whole, and it's about our whole being, our whole system being in health rather than only the head. And I think that's been the biggest change for me in how I view mental health now compared to 4 or 5 years ago.
I didn't realize that 80% of the things that are going on in our body is going up to our brain, and then our brain is passing it down. So we need to get them both in sync, really.
Exactly. And I think it really is about that it's being in sync and in balance. That's really the key to mental health. And of course, physical health is also part of that. When we talk about mental health, if you look at sort of the hormones that are involved in us feeling happy, feeling motivated, and all those positive feelings, two of the most important hormones there are serotonin and dopamine. Serotonin is often called the happiness hormone, and dopamine is the hormone that we often attach with sort of motivation, going for our goals, learning, all those types of qualities. And we used to think that our brain produces most of those two chemicals, but what we now know is that 85% roughly of those two chemicals are actually produced in the gut. And then they send those signals up to the brain. So if we don't have a healthy gut, and if our gut isn't in balance, then it's not going to produce as much serotonin and dopamine. It's going to affect how happy we feel, but it's also going to affect how motivated and driven we are and able to take action on what we want.
Wow, that is so interesting.
When we talk about gut and gut health, we can often think about sort of people being overweight, but actually it can just as well be people who are skinny. For example, stress affects bacteria flora that we've got in our gut. So when we feel stress, the bacteria we've got in our gut actually changes. And so just simply feeling stressed can actually change the physical makeup of what's inside our gut, which also is a bit mind-blowing. But so for people who wanna flip that, I would say, first of all, as with any kind of change, the first step is awareness. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. If you're not aware that there's an issue, then it's just not possible to work on changing it. So step one is absolutely, acknowledging that there's an issue, and really owning that, taking that stance that you are the master of your own body, you're the master of your own mind, and you are the only one who can make those changes. No one else is going to do it for you or can do it for you.
Layers of information and knowledge that you have is unreal. It's like one thing. Some people might be listening now and thinking, "Whoa, there's a lot that I don't know." I'm listening, going, "Wow, there's a lot that I don't know." So how do we use what you know to fuel us moving forward so that we can create really good mental health within ourselves, within our children, within our families, within our loved ones? What would you say, based on everything that you've learned, everything you've studied, everything that you know, and your knowledge is so diverse? Not only are you a warrior mum, you've got your children with autism, and you're a coach, and you studied most of the sciences around development and the brain. Out of everything you've ever learned, everything you've ever read, everything you've ever tried, this is going to be, give us something that we can take. It's Mental Health Week. How can our listeners, our watchers, how can they have this conversation and just have a takeaway? What takeaway can you give everybody who's watching today and listening?
I would say the number one takeaway and the simplest way to work on our state, because really working on mental health is working on our state and being able to shift our own state. So really it's a lot about state management, is another way I think of thinking of mental health. One of the quickest ways of managing our own state that I've found and experienced, and also worked with my kids, working with clients, is actually something really simple that we do every single day. And we do it constantly. We even do it in our sleep, and that's breathing. Breathing is something that we do anyways, so we might as well make it work in our favor. And what I mean by that is that when we inhale, the body releases a small stress response, and when we exhale, the body releases a small relaxed response. So in other words, by balancing our breathing, by having an inhale that's roughly as long as our exhale, then we can actually achieve a nervous system that's in balance. And when our nervous system is in balance, then we're able to handle the things that get thrown at us during our daily lives in a much more balanced, calm, centered way. With my two kids with autism, anxiety has been a big part of sort of you know, everything around them. And so since they were very little, we've been practicing breathing, and we just call it good breathing. But what good breathing is for them is when they do long exhales, because long exhales stimulate a relaxed response. So if they're feeling overwhelmed, if we're standing in a supermarket and there's way too much going on and they're starting to feel that anxiety build up, then now they've practiced it so much, they'll just start doing it on their own. They'll just start doing long exhales, and that helps them regulate their own system. And as adults, you know, if people take a yoga class or a meditation class, then they'll learn breathing. But otherwise, you know, we're not taught breathing anywhere. It's just something that we do. So I would say breathing is number one. Really practical, really simple. You don't need to see an expert. You don't need to just breathe.
I love that. That is your takeaway of the day. Just breathe. So
just breathe.
And because this Mental Health Week is all about, and if you know me, I'm a doer and I'm not just talking about it. So can everyone watching please follow Christel's instructions, and we're all going to practice breathing right now. Are you ready?
Fantastic. Yes.
So what do we need to do?
So what we do is we just sit in a comfortable way, just so that, you know, you don't have like bodily, like physical tensions. You know, you sit comfortably, and then you just make yourself aware of your breath. The best way to breathe, to really get the full effect, is to breathe all the way down into our gut. And when we do that kind of breathing, then when we inhale, our belly actually goes out a bit. And especially women have often sort of learned that to sort of suck your tummy in, then you breathe up here and you don't move your belly. So this is sort of counterintuitive if for anyone who's got used to breathing like that. But so when we inhale, then our belly goes out a bit. And then when we exhale, it goes back in. And then you just find a rhythm that's right for you. It can help to count in the beginning. So you count to 4 or count to 6 when you inhale, and then just make sure that the exhale is roughly as long. So you inhale for 4, and then exhale for 4.
Love that.
And that's it.
Love it. You see?
It's simple.
You can do it. It's simple.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. I always get a takeaway, more than one normally when I'm with you. But the takeaway for today is to breathe. And you've explained to us the science behind breathing, which is also very interesting, because we do hear a lot of the time, just breathe, take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out. And sometimes you think, why? But now we understand why, what actually happens physiologically in our body, the chemicals that are released. It's great to know. Thank you so much for your time today, Christel. Please tell us how we can contact you if we want to have any more of you.
Then you just go to my website. It's clover4.eu, and that's my website where you can see everything I do.